Hey, what's up, guys? It is Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and today I just wanted to make a quick video going through my predictions for AEW All In 2024 London, which goes down this Sunday. There's 9 matches currently on the card, which is, typical for an AEW card. I'm going to go through all of them and just give my predictions about who's going to win and what I think the big moments from the match are going to be. So the first match is the Casino Gauntlet match for a guaranteed world title shot in the future. And really there's like a ton of different ways that this match could go, but in my mind, it's pretty much guaranteed to be one of two winners, either Adam Page or a debuting Ricochet. Now, I would definitely prefer it to be Ricochet, not for the fact that I like Ricochet more than Adam Page, or I would rather see him fight one of the champions versus Adam Page, but I feel like putting Adam Page in there adds a new layer of drama to the main event that I don't think would be beneficial to it, because if he wins and then you go into the main event of Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson for the title, it would seem much more likely that Swerve Strickland is going to win, and I think that would take a little bit less of the drama out of it. And I still don't think that's a guarantee he's going to win, but I think it makes the main event a little less exciting. So I would have Ricochet win this match, or they could just do, some random other surprise. Really, there's a bunch of different ways that you could go in this, depending on who the winner of the main event is going to be. If you're going to have Bryan Danielson win the main event, you could have it be Jon Moxley or Claudio or a member of the Blackpool Combat Club to set up a match like that. Could be cool. But I do think it is going to be Ricochet winning that match. Next up, you have the triple threat ladder match for the Trios Champions. It is it's actually a four-way match. It's the Patriarchy versus the House of Black versus the Bang Bang Gang versus a mystery team that has yet to be announced. I don't think the mystery team will make much of a difference. I think it's just another group added in there to probably make some high-flying spots. They'll probably put Top Flight or a CMLL tag team in there, something like that. I don't really see the titles changing in this match. I think the Patriarchy, especially since they've won them so recently, will probably hold on to them. House of Black aren't really doing anything interesting at the moment, nor are the Bang Bang Gang, especially since Jay White's not even in the match. It's going to be Juice Robinson and the Guns, so I don't see the titles changing hands there at all. Next, AEW World Tag Team Champions, FTR versus the Acclaim versus the Champions, the Young Bucks. I don't know why the Acclaimed is in this match, really. They are not that hot, not having good matches. They don't have a ton of fan interest at the moment. So I really can't see them winning the titles unless they're doing some weird heel turn in the future, but that doesn't really make sense if the champions they're beating are heels. So I think they're in the match to take the fall. Between FTR and the Young Bucks, I do think the Young Bucks will walk away retaining their championships because of a storyline development. I think that'll happen later down the card. So I will get back to the Young Bucks in a little bit. Next, the FTW Championship, Hook versus Chris Jericho. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this match. I don't care about the storyline. I think every match they've had on pay-per-view has been bad and boring and is the worst thing on the card. I'm very much not looking forward to this match. Hook will beat Jericho. It will end this storyline, hopefully. Next match, a coffin match for the TNT Championship. Darby Allin versus the champion Jack Perry. So this has an interesting dynamic going into it because not only is it two of the four pillars facing off, it's also done in a coffin match, which I'm fairly certain Darby Allin has never lost a coffin match in his career. Having said that, though, I am going with Jack Perry to win. I'm going with all members of the Elite to retain their titles on this evening, to continue with their sort of dominance at the top of the card, which I think will have a new wrinkle in it after tonight, which again I'll talk about in a minute. But I feel like at the moment Jack Perry's definitely doing the best work of his career, and I think that it would be weird to take the title off of him so soon. And I think it would be an extra little wrinkle in his dickhead heel cap to be like, not only did I beat Darby Allin, but I beat him in a coffin match. I'm the first person to beat him in a coffin match. Sort of like how MJF used to taunt him by saying, I beat him with a headlock takeover. I think that'll be a new thing that Jack Perry has to say going forward as sort of a way to taunt the crowd, even though he'll probably have some help from the Bucks or Okada to win. Next up, the AEW American Championship, champion MJF versus Will Ospreay. It's a weird one, this one. This is actually one of the less predictable matches on the card for me. One would assume that Will Ospreay is going to win, because he is like the hometown guy, even though there are other people from England on the card. We'll talk about that in the women's match. But other people on the card from London, I feel like Will Ospreay has been presented as the hometown boy, the one who everyone's going to really get behind. So from that logic, you would have to say, oh, of course he's going to win, because he's the hometown guy and he's going to get the big pop. But MJF just won the championship after not too recently turning heel. So what's his direction going forward if he loses this title? I don't really see what they're doing with MJF going forward, winning the title, then dropping it like just a month later. But I do think Will Ospreay will win. I think that you have to start positioning him as the top of your company, because he eventually is going to become champion. I would assume probably by the end of this year, early next year. So you do have to start presenting him as a guy who can rack up the big wins, and beating MJF here would be the first step to that. Plus, he's the hometown boy, so he'll get put over. So I do think it'll be Will Ospreay in this match. Next are one of two women's matches on the card. TBS Championship, Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné. I think this is interesting because Britt Baker just returned as the sort of homegrown AEW babyface, going against Mercedes Moné, who is sort of like an interloper coming from the outside. And it creates an interesting dynamic. And if it were anyone else but Mercedes Moné, I would think Britt Baker would go over, but I think that they have to protect Mercedes, especially because she was booked so poorly towards the beginning of her run, and fan interest is sort of not really with her at the moment. I think you need to book her strong and start putting her in really good matches to raise that investment up again. And I think this is the first step, is Mercedes beating Britt to retain the title. Next, we have our second women's match for the AEW Women's World Champion, Toni Storm versus Mariah May. From a storytelling perspective, I think this one's pretty cut and dry. I think it has to be Mariah who beats Toni for the title, because something that wrestling gets so wrong so often is that if a character changes, they either turn face or turn heel, they need to win their first big match in order to justify that turn. That's one of the big problems I have with the Wyatts versus American Made in WWE, is that Chad Gable and the Creed brothers are just sort of continuously jobbed out and made to look like goobers after they just turned heel. So their faction is sort of done for already. I think in order for Mariah to be made a credible threat and to be taken seriously in the women's division after this heel turn, she needs to beat Toni here. And also, if she doesn't beat Toni, she doesn't really have a good direction going forward. She would just sort of be a heel on the roster, but she doesn't have enough of a heel persona to really find a place on any given card, even just a Dynamite or a Collision, without interacting with Toni Storm. The only way she can find that place is if you give her the belt. That way she always has an ingrained story in her. And Toni sort of going away, and I would personally have her ditch the Timeless Toni character, even though I feel it really has worked for her over the past couple months to a year. I think it is time to move on to something else, and the story of her ditching that persona to maybe find the old persona, the rock and roll star she used to use, to come back and try to beat Mariah May would be a good story. So I feel like it's an easy opportunity by switching the title for both characters to reinvent themselves and come out the other side of this match with something new and exciting to do. So I would put the title on Mariah May, and I do think that is what they're going to do. And lastly, what we assume would be the main event, the title versus career match for the AEW World Championship. Swerve Strickland champion defending against Bryan Danielson. Now, this one, really, out of every match on the card, is the biggest toss-up for me, because I could see direction going forward for either of these guys if they won the title, or in Swerve's case, retained the title. Personally, I do think Bryan Danielson is going to win the title. And I think this for a few reasons. One, I think that they've been really heavy-handed recently in both on-screen promos and interviews that you see backstage of Danielson going, you know, it's time to wrap it up. It's been such a great career, but it's time to bring it to an end. And I've had such a great time, but it's time to hang the boots up. And I think they're really pushing that narrative because they're going to do a swerve and have Danielson turn heel. Maybe akin to how he did in the past with AJ Styles when he won the WWE Championship, when no one really thought he was going to do it there either. I do think Danielson's going to win and become a heel character after this. And I think that he might align with the Elite as a result. That's why I was saying earlier that the Young Bucks will retain and Jack Perry will retain, so that they'll both be champions. Okada will be a champion, and now Danielson will be enraptured with them as well, and he will be a champion. So they'll really have this new power vacuum over the entire roster. And while I don't think the Elite storyline has been fantastic so far, I think adding that new wrinkle into it will make it much more engaging for fans. And I think, really, if Bryan Danielson is going to be wrapping up his career as one of the best wrestlers of all time, in my opinion, the greatest wrestler of all time, I think you want to go out on one last big storyline, and not just a feud with like he's having with Swerve Strickland. I mean a months-long storyline of him holding the AEW World Championship and sort of reverting back to a little wormy dickhead heel. In terms of Strickland going forward, I don't really know where that puts him, other than just being one of the top baby faces in the company, now going after Danielson and trying to regain his title and continuing his fight with the Elite, because he has had, fights with the Elite in the past at Blood and Guts, and he has sort of been clashing with them, so it does sort of make sense if now Danielson joins their ranks, why he would continue to go after them. So yeah, I think from all vantage points, it would make sense to give it to Bryan Danielson. On the opposite side, if Swerve Strickland retained and you did go for another match with Adam Page, I think that does make sense too, but maybe it's just because I'm a Danielson fanboy, or maybe it's because I just want to see the greatest wrestler in the world have the top title in his company. I think it would just be a lot more interesting for Danielson to take the title and go on a fantastic run before wrapping up his career at the end of this year, early next year, by dropping the title to Will Ospreay in a rematch to what was the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen in my entire life. So those are my predictions. Ricochet wins the gauntlet match. The Patriarchy retains in the trios match. The Young Bucks retain in the tag match. Hook beats Jericho for the FTW Championship. Jack Perry retains in the TNT Championship match. Will Ospreay beats MJF. Mercedes Moné retains over Britt Baker. Mariah May beats Toni Storm. And Bryan Danielson beats Swerve Strickland. I will be making a video after the pay-per-view giving my reactions and star ratings to each match. But let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my decisions and what you think the best match from AEW All In 2024 will be. I have been Isaiah. This has been Hot Tags Wrestling. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please consider leaving a comment down below, leaving a like, or subscribing to the channel. It helps us all very much. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.